Good afternoon. You are joining us live from the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, it's round 14 of the MotoGP World Championship, and it's been a busy old week in the rider market. Here to tell us more, Simon Crafar, because we are nearing a complete picture of the MotoGP 2023 grid. Simon, it felt a bit like deadline day on Tuesday with that many announcements. We'll start making our way through them. But a few days before that, Ducati finally unveiled their factory team lineup and also subsequently who will be in those Pramac Racing seats. So we'll start off with the factory team in terms of they have decided to put Enea Bastianini alongside Pecco Bagnaia. In your opinion, right choice?
I think it was the right choice either way, because I think
can't go wrong.
Yeah, it can't go wrong. Both guys, both young men, are exceptional young men, you know, and you can argue for both. Jorge's had a bit of a rough season this year. I think that didn't help. I bumped into him early this morning, went up, gave him a hug and said, "How are you?" You know, he goes, "Good." I went, "How good?" He goes, "100%. He said, he knew why I was asking, and he said that it's the same thing in different colours. Yeah. So I think he genuinely meant it. And it is less of a shift around, you know, less unsettling for anyone, meaning for everyone. One rider moves camp, Jorge stays where he is in the factory satellite team, you know. So anyway, I think it's good. Enea, he is starry. I think he's thinking about it. He's going to be good this weekend as well, like he has been every weekend here in Misano that he's been in MotoGP. And he's Italian. It must have helped a little bit, you know, even if they were on the same level choice-wise. I'll leave it at that. I think people will have different opinions who should have done it, who should have got the ride, but either way was good.
And then we kind of had a feeling that Joan would be saying right where he is. If you're Ducati, he's one of those riders that you can always rely on. He's always going to deliver some decent results. He might have a couple of off weekends, but he's fairly consistent overall, isn't he?
I mean, he's been looking like winning lately as well. Like a couple of weekends, I've thought, this is his chance, you know, like Silverstone for sure. Sad he didn't get to do it, but the other thing is he's very experienced now. He's one of the older riders, more experienced, and he's testing parts that nobody else is, you know. So that's got to be of value as well as his speed.
And then we also finally, it was confirmed that Joan Mir will be off to Repsol Honda next year to partner Marc Marquez. Tough old job, I think you and I have mentioned before. Big ask to go alongside Marc Marquez, but you know, he is also a fellow MotoGP world champion. And then you've got to feel like that unless Honda makes some huge strides forwards in terms of development this year, it's a brave move. Yeah,
I think you've summed it all up there really well. Like, it is intimidating, like coming into a team next to Marc. Then there is, I mean, right now, it's not the bike of choice, is it? You know, for a rider to come in there, that's going to be, it's a challenge and a half. I'm sure Honda will be telling him that they're going to make a big effort, which no doubt they are. We're going to find out next week how big an effort. For the first time, we should see at least the first evolution of their new machine, 23 machine, here at Misano Test. That's Tuesday, Wednesday. But I think, you know, watching these riders the last few years, that Joan Mir is one of the few in the whole paddock that is not intimidated by Marc.
I think you're spot on.
I think, we haven't even spoken about this, but it is obvious to me that he isn't at all. He's like, bring it on. Now, I think that will help, but he's going in to Marc's den, you know, the HRC alone, you know. He's not even taking guys from White, because I've been trying to dig around who's shifting where, and nobody's that I've heard is going with him. So he's going into Marc's, you know, Marc's home alone. So that's got to be a little bit intimidating, but I think he's the man for the job. Yeah. And like you said, let's hope Honda brings something good, because otherwise it's going to be hard for Joan and Marc.
Also worth mentioning, unfortunately, no Joan here this weekend. He has doctor's orders to rest up. He's going to be replaced by Kazuki Watanabe in that Suzuki box. Lovely opportunity for the 31-year-old, obviously just fresh off that Suzuka 8-hour podium as well. But we'll move on to our other rider announcements. We now understand that with you, RNF Yamaha team, but obviously next year they'll be on Aprilia machinery, will consist of Raul Fernandez and Miguel Oliveira. Simon, let's start off with Miguel. You know, he has been, or it was thought that perhaps he might change his mind and stay with the Gas, well, what will be the Gas Tech 3 team next year, but it feels like a change or a new start for him is perhaps just what the doctor has ordered.
I think KTM, so Gas, you know, the same company, I think they did their best efforts to keep him because he's a star, and I would have as well if I was them. And I think KTM, Gas are going to make a big effort for next year. They'll be telling him that. And I understand they offered him 3 years to, you know, and I'm sure the 3 years meant 3 years worth this, you know, in the wheelbarrow. And they did their best effort to keep him. But it just shows that Miguel, his aim is results, you know, and because that's what makes riders happy. And as Mick Doohan used to tell me, don't worry about the money, worry about the results, and the money will come. And I mean, riders, doesn't matter, honestly, riders don't do it for the money. The money is a bonus at the end of it. They do it because it's their passion. And if they're not getting the results, they're not happy. And I genuinely think after the last couple of years, Miguel wants to get back on top of that box. And I firmly believe he's going to. I think next year he's going to be standing on the top step at some stage, really.
I mean, he is essentially going on to, what, the second best bike on the grid this year? Yeah,
and I mean, there's probably even places where it was the best bike, like in Assen, you know, and maybe it will be again in Phillip Island, somewhere a bit more flowing. But I think he's seeing it as a good opportunity to get back in the hunt. And then we've got his young teammate.
Oh, similarly, yeah, absolutely. Raul Fernandez, I think recently he's perhaps come under some criticism just for the breakdown in the relationship. It's not been an easy time for him in KTM this last year, but there's no denying he's an absolute talent. So similarly, a change, a fresh start, do you think?
I think looking from the outside, you can see how the different manufacturers approach things totally differently. Like, KTM wants someone like, to use their words, with Remy, super professional, you know, and I think Aprilia are happy. They've shown it before with the last kind of 3 guys they've had, and put it this way, they are happy to take a raw talent that might be a little bit difficult to manage, or you have to manage him differently and look after him and bring out the best of him. And Raul might be the right guy to do that. They believe he is. They wanted Raul. Look, I know their choices, they've got them. Their first choices were Miguel and Raul. And to be fair, Raul was, I think they want him because of what he did in Moto2. Almost nobody's done, come in and fight for the championship in their first year. With someone established. That was a tough year with Remy. They have made lap times and race times last year that this year aren't matching. And so those boys were good. And they've chosen Raul because they think they can bring out the best in him. And it's going to be really interesting to see if that happens.
I think without a doubt there's a lot more to come from Raul Fernandez, but we shall find out next year. So this weekend also marks a really, really special retirement in the paddock. Andrea Dovizioso bids farewell to the World Championship after 20 years. He finished runner-up in MotoGP class 3 times, was a 125 champion, world champion back in 2004. A fantastic member of this paddock, Simon, will be so fondly remembered. For you, what is the big, how will Andrea Dovizioso be remembered?
Well, I remember him from coming in at his first race in MotoGP on the Honda, and the best guys were overtaking him. He got a really good start, and he'd just give it straight back. And I was like, wow, this guy's serious, you know. I'm talking Rossi passing him and him going, stuffing it straight back in there, all the way through. And it was a long career to, the highlights we're all going to remember is the battles with Marc, you know. But I think everyone's going to remember him differently. The standout one for the journalists in the paddock is to be able to listen to his debriefs. I know we've said that before, because he's so clever, so technical, so experienced, and kind of humble and straight. And we've really enjoyed that. I'm never going to thank you, Dovi. I've really appreciated listening to you all these years. I really have.
I think those sentiments will be echoed from many people in the paddock. But we will move our attention to this weekend. Last time out in Austria, it was actually a big race when it came to the title. Pecco Bagnaia took victory number 5 in the last 8 races and closed the gap to current championship leader Fabio Quartararo. 44 points it's down to now. But then talking of the defending world champion, he rode like a champion to just extend the points gap once again to his nearest title rival, Aleix Espargaro. 32 points between those two at the moment. Coming into this one, Simon, with both of those guys in such a great vein of form, we've not yet seen a real battle royale showdown between the two. There's a bit of a sense of maybe this could be the race.
I like that. I really like that. I hope we get to see it. You know, this is Pecco's backyard, he calls it that. I mean, they come here, the VR46 guys, and ride stock bikes and battle each other. He knows it so well, and we've seen how fast he is the last 2 years. He's been the fastest man around here. Having said that, he's going to take a lot to beat Pecco. It'll either take a mistake from him or someone
Which
really...
he has made in the past as well.
Yeah, last year. It was a mistake on tyre choice, though, really. I think both Jack and him got caught. This is obviously Austria with those funny-looking dinosaur fins on the seat. The thing is, it's going to take someone serious to beat Pecco around here, or a mistake from him, more likely someone serious. And the thing is, Fabio is so serious. You know, what we've seen from Fabio over the last races is someone who's prepared to push himself so hard, and I genuinely believe that he's pushing his level even higher, you know, and Misano won't be a bad bike at all for the Yamaha.
No, I think they're the most successful manufacturer here.
Well, yeah, great track. So I hope what you just described is going to happen, and we see a proper battle between those two great riders who are on form at the moment.
I think it's going to be absolutely epic as well. And also the thing is, it's not going to be a 2-horse race by any means. There's so many other names that you can throw into the mix this weekend. Jack Miller, he has been on such a great run of form. You and I spoke about that a couple of races gone back, because it has been a real return. I think he now is actually matching his best MotoGP year with his results so far this season. You cannot discount him this weekend.
The thing about Jack we've mentioned a couple of times is finding that setting. You know I was going to say that. And he was really competitive last year without that setting. So I think there's a real good chance of him being right there. So I hope that happens. Then, who else? I mean, you're going to, I imagine, bring up maybe Maverick on the
Well, yeah, I was going to bring up
and
like Aprilia, the fact that it's obviously going to be a big weekend for them, with the factory being in Nawali, about a couple hours from here, is it? Up in north. But Aleix Espargaro has had a couple more weeks since that Silverstone crash to just kind of repair a little bit more. You did see when they were trying to do a bike swap practice, he was clearly still in a bit of pain.
Fracture in the heel.
Exactly. So a couple more weeks on for him. Maybe we'll see him back at the front a bit more this weekend. And then, like you said, Mike Vinales, okay, on the Yamaha, he's got a win and a podium here.
Let's go with Aleix. Aleix, I felt, was, I mean, he started the weekend really rough in Austria. I think maybe bike setting, also maybe him. Also the start was rough, as we just saw there. Didn't get their start device engaged, so lost off the start line. But I was really impressed how he fought through that bad start of the weekend and kind of minimised the damage to his championship. He did a good job, and I think he's going to be stronger here, Misano. hopefully hits the ground running, meaning he's fast straight away instead of struggling, you know, off the mark in FP1 like he did in Austria. So hopefully he's straight on form. We see the best of Aleix, because Aleix's right there when he's on form, you know, right there. So then Maverick, I remember Maverick on the Yamaha here because that fast corner at the end of the back straight is intimidating fast. The fastest section of the track, and you've got to tip in without, you know, well, maybe a dab on the brakes on these things, yeah. But super fast, and he was the fastest guy through that corner, you know. When I was watching, I was like, wow. So he's got something special here, you know, something in his favour. So let's hope he can use it.
We just saw a glimpse, actually, when we were watching some of those images of Aleix Espargaro, of Luca Marini, who actually is coming off the best, his best results so far in MotoGP. A big old race of the VR46 Muni team. Marco Bezzecchi enjoying just also awesome year. But with what we saw from them in Mugello, we talk about home pride going a long way. Go a bit further this weekend, couldn't it?
Yeah, I remember dodgy conditions, which we're likely to see here, looking out there. How the two VR46 guys led early on in Mugello. That was super impressive. This is their backyard, like I say. There's a big chance of them doing that. And then I've got to throw in Jorge Martin out to prove a point. You chose the wrong guy. and Neo Bastianini, he's, like I said before, been super fast here. Remember at the end of the race, just hunting down the guys ahead of him, you know, and he's from here as well. So I think they're the obvious boys to look out for.
It's wild, actually, how many names you can draw out the hat this weekend, but we just touched on it. Weather forecast, once again, this weekend, it's looking very, very precarious. For us in Austria, we got away with it rather nicely. We were lucky in the end. The conditions were fairly stable. It doesn't really look as though that's going to be the case this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's been raining this morning. We've been trying to do interviews with jackets and duck under some cover to get them done, or in garages, and apparently it's going to carry on through the weekend. You know, that's what I was seeing yesterday, forecast-wise. I know what that means from rider point of view, meaning you know, you've got to deal with more different conditions, more risk, more. But I was talking to a few crew chiefs because they were the interviews I was doing this morning, and they were explaining to me how it really mucks up their plans. They come into a weekend, Austria it happened as well, here again, that they have a plan and they try to get through as much as they can in the weekend and how to do it. So you've got to have an aim, like we're going to do this many laps, change to that bike, do this. Then, for example, you can have two, if it's clear weather, you can have two dry settings, completely different, to try which one's better.
Yeah.
But if it's looking dodgy, you've got to have one wet bike and not use it unless it rains. So you can't test those other things. So it really mucks up their plans. And they're also explaining that the wet bikes are getting further and further from the dry bikes. So it's not a quick change, like change a shock, and it's geometry difference. So it mucks up their plans, this weather.
Bit of a nightmare for the teams. I am rather aware that this press conference room is filling up rather quickly, so I just wanted to touch on one thing. Marc Marquez posted images and video earlier this week of himself back on a Honda CBR 600. Very, very exciting because it feels almost imminent that his return. There have been a couple of whispers that potentially he might drop by to this Misano test, but what do you think, Simon? Do you think we're going to see him there this weekend?
Well, how you described it, I'm so glad you brought this up because I got some strong feelings on it. Happy to see him back, obviously, but how I see it is nobody will tell us that he's coming. They're even saying he might not come and they're playing it down. What I see, standing back, is everything that Marc has done is planning 23. He had the operation in time to recover for the first test for 23, which is next week here. I think he'll be here. If he's not here, I'm sure he'll be here. If he's not, it's the first problem for 23.
Yeah.
So I put money on he'll be here next week. As much as they're playing it down saying, oh, I don't think he's come, he'll be here.
Lots to look out for here this weekend in Misano. We are about done here. Simon, Crafar, many thanks for your company and your comments. We're heading over very, very shortly to our press conference with Matt Burt.